Hey, how you all doing? My name is Greg. A lot of you all may know me as Greg the MLO. Maybe on some other YouTube channels you know me as Greg Said It, where I talk about a lot of football and a lot of other good things outside of mortgages. But I wanted to give some insight here as a mortgage loan originator. A lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, don't really know the process of what to expect. It could be a very rocky ride. It can be like a roller coaster in the dark. And then some people haven't really done the process in a long time and maybe have forgotten it. You know, the average person may purchase a home maybe a few times in their life. So it's not something that you do often. So the process, you kind of have to be renewed on it, right? Plus, laws do change. Situations change. A lot of people don't realize that it's different for every person. I mean, it's different situations, it's different circumstances. You got different income types and different types of documents that are required depending on the loan type. You have different things on your credit report. It's a lot of things that can really get interesting. But what I will say, the process pretty much starts the same for everyone. I mean, you have your mortgage application, you send in your documents, you pull your credit. Now that could go different ways. Sometimes the company will pull the credit, which will be retail, and you're going to pay more for it on the back end, and some allow you to pull your credit up front for a discount. So you pay for it up front, right? Which is a little less. It can be 2-3 times less in some cases, right? But you go through that process and you begin to move, right? And as the mortgage loan originator, my job is to get you what is called pre-qualified. Now, some people don't know the difference between a pre-qualification and pre-approval. A pre-qualification is what a mortgage loan originator would do, and a pre-approval is what an underwriter would do when the underwriter is involved. Now, some people only do pre-approvals, mean they run your stuff right off. Like I have some lenders that runs it right off through an underwriter, which could be more so dealing with brokers. I am a broker, so I have different lenders with different requirements and different abilities for different circumstances, right? So there are times that I could run it straight through the underwriter. You don't have a home yet, but you are pre-approved for that amount, right? So when you do get a home, it's quicker because we've already been underwritten. So that's like pre-approved. But I will say that that's just the beginning. So if I get you pre-qualified, you know, it looks like, okay, I'm good for a person who's really just getting started. They would say, I'm good. I'm done. I just get the house, is over. And it seems that way. To me, I would call that like the first hurdle, where you will get your mortgage pre-qualification, where you know financially, based off of the documents you submitted, based off the calculations of the mortgage professional, that you should be good to go. But there's other parties involved. So typically, a mortgage professional who's very busy may have someone called a loan assistant, right? That's a person who kind of like, if they have a lot of business, that's the person who do the following up and things like that. It just helps. But then you also have somebody called a processor. A processor is that person who will be there in the beginning as well, that once the origination of the loan is done, that processor will step in to make sure that the documents that are required are, or they kind of like cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure everything is good and clean. It should have a clean profile, but they make sure that, and everything is sent over to the underwriter. At that point, once the underwriter starts to look at things, you know they're going to come back and have different things that they want, very particular about certain things, about what is this document? Well, can you get that verified? You know, so it's like a fine comb. They're very much more detailed because they're working to make sure that the lender is safe, right? Mortgage person makes sure you meet the qualification to even get to the underwriter, right? Because if it's not right, the underwriter will never even receive it. They would just deny it. But if they do give you some type of conditional approval or eligible, referred eligible, they're just saying that you qualify for the next stage. Now, the next stage will be, okay, you may have to do some proving. You may have to get some extra documents outside of that. Then this is where it gets interesting. For a new person or a person who haven't done it in a while, they would get very agitated. And it's our job, and that's why I'm doing this video, to make sure you know what's coming. Especially if you're the originator who also kind of on that thin line or really doing your own processing. Because at this point, the processor should be the one that steps in to get those additional documents, which really allow the originator to continue on with helping other people, but also to show a clear line of stages. So didn't you tell me this? Well, no, you're at the next stage now. And that's why it's good, you see, that's one of the benefits of having a processor. One of the negatives of having a processor, if you don't have a good one and you still have to end up doing the work anyway as the originator, that's when it gets messy, because there's no need to have an extra voice in there if it doesn't benefit the process. And if I have to do all the work anyway, why confuse the client? Especially if it's an issue of communication where that processor doesn't communicate. And let's say I communicate as the mortgage professional. I answer my phone calls and texts, and I get back with you if I miss it, and that processor don't. If you have different kind of characteristics like that, that could be an issue. So that's the negative part about having a processor. But the good thing about a processor is that they are there to help during this rocky stage. It's the most rocky stage. The reality is, on the front end, if all the documents and everything is really looked through well by your mortgage loan originator, it should be less rocky towards the end, because you don't want to have an incomplete file where a person has to keep coming back to the buyer, hey, or the borrower, hey, I need this, I need that. You should have all that up front, so you will have less back and forth. You will have back and forth. And the more back and forth, the more irritating it is, because I just sent that and you asked me for something else. I sent you send me a list of 20 things. I thought I've already sent all the documents in. Why are you asking me for more things? But really, it's just an extension of those things. And then even when you send those things, they may say, hey, why do you keep asking me for things? Why do you keep asking me? And you need to know up front that this is going to happen to some degree. The more organized you are up front, and really the less circumstances you have to cover. I mean, sometimes you just need documents that the average person don't need. Maybe you have your stuff in trust. Maybe you have retirement income. If you have different unique things, then you will need more documentation that may not be typical, but it's for your situation. So you just have to be patient. Your mortgage person has to be patient and kind of hold your hand through it. And really be able to explain to you and make sure everybody's on the same page who else is involved. And that's really our job as the mortgage loan originator, is to make sure that you're comfortable through this roller coaster. Some people's ride is longer than others and rockier than others. Like I say, it depends. But you need someone who's truthful. You need someone who is clear on what's coming. And when you get to those places, they're able to kind of alleviate some of that concern you're going to have, because you're going to feel like at times they're going to pull this thing back from me. First they said it was done. Now it's like, if you don't get this done, we're going to drop it. You're going to deny you. And that can be a scary thing. And a lot of times you don't even know that mortgage loan originator is handling things behind the scenes, the same way that agent is handling things with the seller behind the scenes. Sometimes those deals can get a little shaky. You don't know everything and what it takes to get it done, and how close it is to being, denied. So make sure you have a good agent, but also make sure you have a good loan originator. And to me, a good loan originator, if more than anything, I don't care how good an experienced that originator is, if they don't communicate with you, you're gonna be in a bad situation, because you're gonna be stuck wondering, am I gonna close? When I'm gonna close? Okay, I got the document in, what's next? Some people just take your documents and you don't hear from them for a long time, and it's a mystery. And imagine if you have to move. Imagine you've already packed up. Imagine if you have to move, you have a lease ending, and you just in a situation where you have to move. You need to feel comfortable. You need to know what's going on. And if that person is kind of like taking your documents and it's like, okay, and they're not really thinking about your feelings, it can be a rougher experience than it needs to be. So I would say it's important to find a good originator that you can communicate with, and that they have a team that can support them, because it's not always smooth. I remember when I purchased my house, I had to take over the deal, and I wasn't the originator. It made me want to be a mortgage loan originator, because the person was supposed to be top tier and he was good at what he did, but he was a horrible communicator. And my agent even told me that up front. The agent said he's good what he do, but he's not the best communicator. I didn't know what that meant until I knew what it meant. And because he was a poor communicator, so was his processor. And I really feel like I did everything he asked me to do and fast. I did my part. I feel like if I didn't step in, my deal would have fell through, because so many times I had to call them and say, oh yeah, we was just about to get back with you. And I knew it was a tight deadline. I knew the time, frames that I had to get it back. And I knew what time frames I had. And it was as if I didn't contact them, they would say, oh, well, we off to something else. And, I guess they'll blame me. I don't know who they would blame, because they wasn't communicating with me. And I had a good file, and I had everything they asked me for, and it wasn't a raggedy file, and I had good credit, and I had the down payment. I had everything. And to me, it barely went through. I had to get way more involved than what I needed to, even with the supposedly good and experienced originator. So the more of this story is, be ready for the ride and have somebody you can ride with. And with that, I'm Greg, the MLO. You can always contact me here at gregthemlo.com. Also, you can text me. It was the 404-902-3042. Thank you all, and I hope that I can help you all or work with you all. If you have any questions, feel free. Like, subscribe, comment. Y'all have a good one.